All right, so these are the materials that we need for painting with tempera paint. We have what's called a shared palette, and this palette, me and my partner are gonna both scoop paint from it. We're gonna keep it nice and neat so that we can always see yellow by itself, white by itself, the blues and the red. This is my mixing palette, and this is my friend's mixing palette, my partner's mixing palette. I have two brushes, a small brush and a big brush. I'm gonna use the big brush for big jobs and the little brush for little jobs. And this is my water cup, which I'm also sharing with my partner. Also, I have a rag, and you'll see why in just a minute. So, what colors do I have on my palette? I actually have the primary colors. I have two different kinds of blues though, because they make nicer secondary colors when they're different. I'll show you that. So we have yellow, red, blue, and we have a special guest, white, because we can also make tints with the color white. Can you think of any colors that have white in them? I'll give you a hint. This is one of the most famous ones. Red and white. It makes pink. Okay, so before I get started painting my own critter, I'm gonna decide what color I'm gonna make most of my critter's body, okay? And I think I'm gonna make my critter green. So to make green, I'm gonna need two different colors. Do you know what they are? I'm gonna use this blue, it's kind of a turquoisey blue. I'm gonna scoop up some turquoise and I'm gonna put it in my palette. Now, I am going to add yellow to the blue. And really, blue is more powerful than yellow. Yellow is the weakest color. So when I mix a color with yellow, I wanna add lots of yellow because we need a lot of yellow to stand up to the blue. So now I have blue on my palette. I'm gonna wash my brush, sweeping the bottom of the cup. Wash, 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 wash. Wipe, wipe, wipe. Dry, dry, dry. Brushes, when we use tempera paint, it's not like watercolor. They're already awake. You'll notice they're nice and wet. So we actually don't want to add water to them unless it's just a little bit. Now I'm going to scoop up with my clean brush a lot of yellow. I can scoop twice into my yellow. If I'm using the same color, I can keep on scooping. And I'm going to put a lot of yellow on my palette because I'm going to need it. Now, I'm going to add a little blue into my yellow and see if I like the green that I get. Ooh, I can add a little more of that blue, and I'm getting a lovely green. Once I have this green, I can start painting it onto my critter. Now, I'm going to start here with the leg because I'm going to show you some things. I'm not going to paint the whole thing right now because I want you to get started soon, but it's okay if I get paint on my table. I can clean that later with my rag. I'm going to paint this whole leg green. I'm going to paint the whole body green, in fact, and then I'm going to add the details on top. It's a lot easier to make layers of paint than it is to try to paint around our details. So we always start big with our big brush. We start big with our big brush and paint most of our puppet first, or our critter, okay? Then we'll come back and add details on top. So if I add a nice thin coat, this will dry pretty quickly and I can add paint on top of it. Like I said, I'm not gonna paint the whole thing green right now because I want you guys to get started, but I wanna show you how we can layer paint. Let me do his head too. All right, now I've run out of green. I need to get more yellow, but this palette is the shared palette. I don't want to make it dirty, so I have to wash my brush, sweeping the bottom of the cup. Wash, wash, wash. Wash, 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 wipe, 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 dry, dry, dry. If I get a heap of paint on the side of my cup when I'm wiping it, that means I probably need to go back in and wash it again. Always drying it before I scoop up my paint. Okay, now I'm gonna scoop up a bunch more of this yellow because I think I have enough of the blue maybe to mix in and make it green. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll paint his head so I can show you adding details later. That green's a little lighter, but I kind of like it. So I'm gonna paint his whole head and then I can add the details on top, okay? So now I've got green. What if I wanted to add orange? How would I make that? That's right, I would add yellow to red. Now, if my palette is really messy and I only have a little bit of paint, I can just wipe it right off with my rag and start a new color. So I'm gonna scoop up some yellow. Remember, yellow is not very strong, so I need to add a lot. And then if I wipe off enough of the paint, sometimes I can scoop without washing if I'm careful. All right, now remember, yellow is weak, so I'm just adding a little bit of red. If I want to make an orange eye, I need to wait for this green to dry or I'm gonna get brown. It's pretty dry on the eye there. Now I've got a nice orange eye. And if I want to use some orange in other places, like I could make the ends of the hands, use the colors while you have them, okay? I'm gonna give him a fire-breathing mouth eventually. I might glue another piece on there. But you wanna add your details on top. Now let's say I wanna give him red polka dots. I wanna wait for it to dry a little bit and I add the polka dots on top, okay? We wanna add our details on top of the flat piece. All right, are we ready to do this? Let's get started.